So you've got those actions there. Then you've got things like besiege, which is quite a common. I don't particularly want to go into this now, but other things you can do, because yes, at heart it is a deck building game. You've got to decide how you're going to stack your deck. What cards are you going to draft from your deck? So you can't draft location cards. You can only add a location card if you settle that location. But there's all sorts of cards you can draft, like military units.
They have different strengths, I assume.
They have different strengths, siege. So this is a strength here. So this will be worth 2 points in the siege, this will be worth 3 points, but you've got to pay money to use it.
Tip of the hat to the Rangers.
The Rangers, well, they've got an extra ability in that they can ambush, and they can raid, and they can also block out. So they can effectively act a long distance. The military leader is a free action to play. You've got extra ships. Trader. There's two ways of getting money in the game. You can either chuck in a card that's got a money symbol at the bottom and take that amount of money. Now the British have got a lot of cards like that, the French not so. The other way is to chuck in a trader card, and then you can discard as many cards as you like, but you've got the fur symbol at the bottom, and you get two money for each fur. So as you expand to these locations, you're picking up more cards that have got the fur symbol, so you can convert that to money. Other things, you've got not so good militia. The British can pick up an extra bateau, an Indian leader. There are Indian cards, the majority of which are neutral. So either side can pick them up. Now, if one side gets an advantage with Indian cards, you can try and claw that back while playing an Indian leader to try and steal an Indian card back from the other player. Home support, very useful, allows you to pick up 3 cards from the deck. A governor, you can get rid of a card, because some cards, after you've got them, especially location cards, you don't particularly want to keep them. Settlers, and fortification. So those are cards that you can add to your deck. The French is asymmetric, so the French have slightly different cards. So their versions of the Ranger, the Coureurs de Bois, they've got a priest instead of an Indian leader. But they also have a card that the British don't have, in that they have the Intendant, who, if you pay 2 money, you can pick any card you like out of your discard pile. So, so drafting in itself is an action, so you just pick up the card. If it's got a cost, fine, you pay the cost, you put it in your discard pile. So you've got different ways of taking money, either just by playing the card and taking money, or using a trader. The French, again, a little thing they can do with the Louisburg card allows them to go out and raid the British. You can get the Louisburg card and the ship card, and you take 2 of the British. That's the action of pirates. The other thing you can do, which gives you a little bit more control over cards, because sometimes a card might come out and you think, oh, I'd really like to use that card later, but now is just not the right time. Well, you've got each side has got a reserve, and you can put a card in the reserve. It's an action to put it there, and you can have up to 5 cards in there. But as a free action, you can pick up all the cards out of your reserve, but you must pay 1 money for each card. But all of them must come out. You don't pick; all of them must come out. But that gives you a way to say, put aside military units you might want to use now and save them to later. The thing you have to be careful about, though, is you've got these pesky Native Americans. So if I'm, say, the French player and I play one of these, I can either raid or ambush. If I ambush, I play it. If you do not block it, then you have to discard a military card, a card which has got shows its predators. So basically, you can redraft it, but you've lost an action. Alternatively, you can raid. The distance you raid depends on how many cards you play. So if you play 2 cards, you can raid along 2 connections. If the other person does not block it, then you burn their settlement out. And you actually keep, whenever you take one of these, either due to raiding or besieging, you keep it, it's worth points to you. Okay, these will be worth 2 points, these will be worth 4. So it certainly means that if you're going to expand, you've got to be worried about Indian raids. Now, Indian raids will be blocked if you build
fortresses.
a fortress, and they can't raid beyond that. So, as much as possible, I've tried to keep the flavour of this kind of frontier
It
war.
certainly feels like it. I mean, I must say,
Because it's not a game where you're continually hammering at each other, and that combat actually is quite limited.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to get to the other guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, it's just going to be a race to expand to certain places. You can win the game without fighting. There are a number of game end victory conditions. You can go for the jugular. So if the British take Quebec, they win automatically. If the French take Boston or New York, they win automatically. You can win if you capture so many points from the other player, 12 points. The other way of winning is to get all of your towns on the board.
Okay.
So again,
you got some choices how you play it.
Yeah. So you could just go for the French, for instance, could go for a fairly peaceful expansion, and then say grab the extra settler card from here. Because the problem is the French have only got one card with a settler symbol on it, so you've kind of got that disparity in numbers. The French, it takes time for the French to develop the villages into towns, whereas the British have got a lot of cards which have got a settler symbol at the bottom. So, but if the French get the second settler thing, then they can get to speed up their settlement process. And then the problem the British have got, because the French start off with quite a lot of points, so something like Quebec is worth 6 points, whereas the British settlements are deliberately point for. It forces the British to move inland. So if the French start settling really quickly, the British are going to have to get a move on to try and take those settlements off the French. So that if the French do end it, the British win on points. So it's a bit like sumo wrestling. It's like figuring out what the opponent's going to do, and then put them off balance, and then flatten. So I mean, the first time you play it, it will take quite a while. I know so many people playing it. It's like they're so busy playing the game, they've forgotten about the victory conditions. But once you understand the game, I mean, when I was developing this game with my main playtester for this, we could finish 4 games in 2 hours. You know, once you know it, the actions just go back and forth. It's like bang, 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 bang. And once you know what you're doing, you can play a game easily in under an hour.
Age range for the game?
Probably 13 plus. It's not a simple game. It's a gamer's game.
So what's your time frame in terms of getting this to a point where it's going to be ready for release?
Well, it should have been ready a couple of months ago, but the company producing it went bankrupt.
I've heard this.
Share went bankrupt. So the company that taken over Share will be finishing off the game because the boards are already printed. Some of the boards and cards have already been printed. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it may be ready in June. But I can't guarantee anything because it's a bit chaotic over there.
I can imagine,
So,
but soon. Lovely. Well, thank you very much for showing us. It looks like an awesome game. Thank you, Martin Wallace again. Mark Rivera, UK Gaming Media Network, live from Expo.